Pomeranz. I'm your host of Good Morning Keeper Home for Tuesday, May 26, 2020. And if you haven't had a chance to look out the window, it's an absolutely beautiful day. So if there's any chance you have to get outside, open a window, perhaps take advantage of what will probably be the first and nicest day of the spring, which has been late to come to us. It has certainly not been beautiful weather. But I hope it's a beautiful day for you. There's a lot of exciting things on this channel for you to watch. And we're going to tell you a little bit about what's going on meal-wise and a little bit in history. And I have a special guest today who's actually my neighbor in my office and my good friend Wendy Steinberg, who hosts on Wednesdays, but today is a guest. So let's start off by talking a little bit about the weather. As you can see, it's a beautiful day. It's going to reach about 79 degrees, partly cloudy, and should be just one of those days which is really special, where it gets too hot, it's not going to rain, maybe a little cloudier than we like, but really nice day today. Day in history today, a couple significant moments. Those of you who have watched or read or have been part of the Dracula story for many years, actually I'm not even part of a Dracula story, that doesn't sound too good, but there's a Dracula itself. The book was released today, many years ago, as was today the day in history that President Johnson was acquitted of being impeached. So two major events, one sort of light, one more serious. With politics today, impeachment, much more talked about up until the time of Nixon. It had really only occurred just a couple of times in history. In any event, let's talk about the meals today. We have for lunch rosemary chicken with white rice and a vegetable blend and pineapple for dessert. For dinner, tomato rice soup, grilled cheese with tomatoes, Kirby cucumber salad. What's Kirby cucumber salad mean?
Kirby's. They're a kind of cucumber, but they're
Okay, I never knew that. So just letting you know what I don't know. And Lisa's laughing because she's baking all kinds of things that she knew that. I didn't know that. And there's Olivia giggling and she doesn't have a tan. Anyhow, Jell-O for dessert. So tonight, and I asked if Jell-O is popular. Nobody seems to know. So if you see me in the halls, and let me know, because I'm not sure if Jell-O is an exciting dessert or not, but I hope it is. And Irene K. today celebrates her birthday. So happy birthday to Irene K. So that concludes the sort of structured format, and now gives me a chance to welcome in my guest and friend and colleague and neighbor, Wendy Steinberg. Hi, Wendy.
Hello, good morning.
So Wendy, maybe you could just start out, people know you as a host. They know a little bit about what you do, but maybe you could just do a way to get into the work stuff later. But maybe just give a big picture of what your role is here at Keeper Home.
Sure. When I came here, I had never been to the Bronx, had never been to a nursing home, and had never heard of the Keeper Home.
Wow.
So it was a big leap of faith.
That's like the triple crown of nothingness. Did you like Jell-O?
Yeah, just the cherry flavor, I'd say I could go for.
Okay. And you knew Kirby.
Kirby's, I actually prefer Kirby's to cucumbers. So I will bring you one. You can get them anywhere and they're really good, actually.
Okay, back to what you do here.
Yes, so my background is in public relations. Most of my career was at big PR agencies, working on consumer brands, as you know, like LG Electronics, Barilla Pasta, Panasonic Batteries, Elmer's Glue, some big iconic brands. And I knew I wanted something more meaningful in my life and something more rewarding to work on and to talk about. And so when I came here, I was incredibly impressed with home and everything that the home does and represents, and it was a leap of faith, and that brought me here. And so my role is basically everything pertaining to internal and external communications I'm involved with.
So that was about 8 years ago?
Yes.
And you've done quite a bit in that space to change things in this organization. We'll get back to that piece in a minute, but I want to spend a little bit of time with you personally first to talk about what's important to you, because people see you in the halls and perhaps they know some of the magic that you've done here, and we're going to talk about that. But talk about a little bit about your own magic, what makes you happy, about your family. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, David and I talk about this all the time because it's a common for both of us, which is our families. I'm very fortunate to have just an incredible, loving, supportive family in my life. I have a husband, I have 2 boys I'm so proud of. And
Their names?
Daniel and Ben. And Daniel is studying chemical engineering at Drexel, and Ben is studying business at University of Albany. So I'm very proud of them.
And aside from family time, pets I know are very important to you as well.
Yes, the show knows how much of a pet lover I am. I have a dog and 3 cats, and I'm very involved with dog rescue in my community. When pre-COVID, every weekend I would go to the pet store and volunteer at the dog adoption ends.
So it's always interesting to me because, wonderful background, right? Just wonderful family and really traditional kinds of things, yet you have an odd taste in the genre of movies that you like. Maybe
Yes.
tell everybody a little bit what kind of movies you like to watch.
Well, I have to tell you guys that I really love zombies and science fiction and blood and guts and all that good stuff. So
You probably wouldn't think that with the background that you have and you're carrying with the pets and all, but you like a good head rip-off or a zombie eating somebody's corpse, right? I mean,
I do. I bet our residents like that genre too. You should write us and tell us about that. I do. You know what? It's because it's just fun. It's not real. Like, I don't like slasher movies, like the Freddy Krueger things. Because that could be a real thing that could happen, right?
Right.
So that I don't.
So we are having a pandemic, so who would have thought that would be real either?
No pandemic movies, right? But zombies is just kind of silly stuff, and so I watched The Walking Dead for a number of years, but then I got a little tired of it. And I love movies that are like that, like World War Z with Brad Pitt.
Who doesn't like to relax and watch a little bit of cannibalism or people ripping each other's heads off? It's a little different.
I bet a lot of people like that genre.
Anyway, on a more
You
serious,
do, right?
I do. On a more serious note, Wendy, part of your job here has been to make aging more of a sexy topic. And I got to say, the work you've done, if those who are residents and families, hopefully when you're able to visit again, walk down the corridors or see the amount of articles that have been published in the various newspapers and magazines that make elderly and aging issues sexy. It used to be that elderly people were sort of meant to be quiet and they were done and they were finished. You shared your background, which is interesting, and we can get back to that in a little bit, but you brought that talent and you've made aging go front and center. Tell us how you did it. What's your approach? How do you get people in the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal to understand aging issues? How do you make that happen?
No, I've told you this. I'm just the messenger. I really view myself as that way. The magic that happens here is the work that everybody here at the home does. The policies, the residents. I mean, those are the stories that fuel me. I mean, it's really, I'm just sharing what takes place here and just sharing that with the news media.
So that's Wendy in a nutshell. She's just always unwilling to accept praise. I mean, even the show run today, this is all efforts on your part to expand communication capabilities. But let's go back for a second again and take another shot at that. Because it isn't as if these are easy things to have happen. You don't just pick up the phone and say, "Hi, New York Times, I'd like a story." And so how do you do it? Like, what's the process like?
Well, what will happen is you'll say to me, "Hey, we've got a Yankees exhibit here." And you and I will talk back and forth, and we'll figure out where is the news part of it, because it's not just about memorabilia, using our Yankees exhibit as an example. It's not just saying, "Hey, we've got some great things, look at this, look at that." It's what's the deeper meaning behind it. And then I'm able, based on the information that we have here, that you share with me and that we develop, I just try to position myself as what's news, what's going to be of interest to somebody who's reading the newspaper, because it's less about what we're interested in, but more about what's the broader story, what's the broader message.
So understanding what they need from the news standpoint, and you work backwards to make sure that you connect that in?
Right, because every reporter has a beat. Every
Right.
reporter, has, and every news outlet has a particular kind of an audience. So and I love the media. I've always loved working with the media. So I used to read 5 newspapers a day. In my agency days, 5 newspapers would come on my desk every single day. And I would read them, and I'm very much old school, as you know. I still love the print papers, and I still, will rip a newspaper article and save it so that when I can get to it, I will reach out to that reporter and I'll say, "Hey, I loved your story about XYZ. Perhaps we can work together on a story pertaining to something here." So I like to think that my success is in terms of doing my homework, in terms of here, what's the news, but also my homework in terms of what people are writing about or talking about, and then bringing the two together, like a matchmaker.
So a lot of research
Yes.
and time spent to try and
Yes.
match the two parties together.
Yeah, and also, I don't take no, you have to be really tenacious and just keep plugging at it. And like, for example, for our Yankees story that wound up in the New York Times, that took many months of trying different reporters.
That ended up on the front page of the New York Times on Easter Sunday, that story?
Yeah, so that was actually literally on the front page of the New York Times.
And I used to tease Wendy, could you get it on this page or that page? And I'd say, could you get it on the front page? And now it's just, can you get it above the fold? That's the only thing left to do.
It's hard. It's not an easy thing, but we do have really amazing stories here.
So do you find, Wendy, if you could step back from yourself, do you find aging and the issues around aging are becoming more interesting to people? Do you see that when you're reading and listening?
Definitely. Our population is getting
Because
older.
people, okay, I was going to say, because people are living longer?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The population is getting older, baby boomers, the silver tsunami, as they call it. It's a very relevant and important topic. And what we're doing is, head and shoulders, above what anybody else is doing. So we're considered the leader in the category, which is a great place to be.
Do you find that reporters are willing to do repeat stories, and each time you have to go to a different reporter? How do you identify within a publication? Is it by the topic? Is it by the beat that they're on? How do you navigate that? 'Cause you've had multiple stories in the Times, multiple stories in the Wall Street Journal.
It works both ways. When I came here, I did not have a single contact. I didn't know anybody because I had never worked in this space before, if you will. So I had to build it up over the years. So I feel good in that in the 8 years that I've been here, I've developed solid relationships with reporters where I can shoot them an email and say, hey, I've got this. Is this something that would be of interest to you? So, and get a response back. Because most times in my line of work, I can send out 100 emails and nobody will respond, so that's the tough part.
What I've always found interesting and learned from you is the amount that they play off of each other, where you'll have an article in one type of media and then another media picks it up. And I think an example is Katie who works in Riverwalk. You pitched during the course of this trying time we're all in, Katie who works at Riverwalk had decided to stay and sleep and be at Riverwalk so she could be there for the tenants. And you pitched it. Maybe just tell us where you pitched it and maybe what's happening Thursday as a way to show how it works.
Sure. The New York Post started a regular column called Heroes of the Day, and we have plenty of heroes here. And I emailed them and told them about Katie as one of our heroes, and they did a story about her probably 2 months ago already now, right? It was 6 days ago.
I lost track of time.
Definitely, it was a while ago. And then, out of the blue, I got an email last week that the producers of the Kelly and Ryan show,
Which is a competing show, right? Does it run against us on ABC? So
no, they're
don't.
at different time slots. It's
Okay,
They're at
good.
different time
So
slots.
you can watch them and then watch us.
So Kelly Ripa and Ryan Seacrest, that they're doing a series about heroes, and that they wanted to talk to Katie too. And that's, in my world, broadcast very often will follow print coverage. So
they're reading the paper and
they
seeing.
read the paper, they see what's happening, and then, not always, but very often, they'll do stories on TV based on what's in the newspaper that day. So it was really exciting, and Katie did a pre-interview with one of their producers, and now she's going to be talking via Zoom with Ryan and Kelly this week on Thursday. So everyone, check it out. Thursday, sometime around 9:30, she should be on the air.
That's terrific. And the ability to tell stories, the ability for people to understand aging, understand services through the eyes of individual stories and people, it's a wonderful way to get people connected.
Yeah, our residents are incredible, and this has been probably the best part of this job that I have is getting to know the residents and working with them and sharing their individual stories and sharing it really with the world so that people can see what aging is really like, and then trying to brush off those stereotypes and to really talk about how older adults are vital and doing great things and just have compelling stories.
When you worked on the corporate side, I think you had shared with me, was it Crazy Glue? That you
Yes.
Maybe you could just tell me, it's kind of a fun campaign that probably people saw.
It was very fun. So
Yeah.
Crazy Glue was celebrating an anniversary, I don't know, maybe 125th, something like that.
Around that long?
I don't know, it was a big anniversary. But, so we were representing them, and we were looking for a way to celebrate the anniversary in a big way. And many people remember the iconic Crazy Glue commercials where you'd have a construction man hanging from a beam, with his hands like this, and then he'd have the hat on. It was just one dab of glue, of Crazy Glue, and he'd literally be hanging. So we recreated that hanging man with a friend of mine, and it was really true. It really was just, literally one dab of Crazy Glue, and so he was suspended in.
Did it work?
Penn Station, I think. It worked. He was hanging.
Yeah.
He was hanging from there, so that was really fun. And then Fox News Channel asked us to recreate it outside on their plaza on 6th Avenue, so then we did it again. And he did not fall. He stayed hanging, so it was good.
So you mentioned, Wendy, that you did that corporate stuff, which you just were telling the story, and you were looking for more meaning. Could you talk a little bit more about what it's like to have been here for these 8 years and how it feels? I mean, it doesn't feel like 80 years for those who work with you. It feels like you've been here forever. And your accomplishments, and you won't talk about them, but are unbelievable. The amount of coverage that we get at the Heber home compared to, in my time here, you've done more in 8 years than the first 100 years of the organization. So talk a little bit more, if you could, about how it feels to walk into a completely different environment. I mean, it's people, it's care, it's a total different animal.
Well, two things that I always just say is when I came here and I'd walk down the halls, people would actually smile and say hi. And I know that sounds like silly, but in where I had been working in the corporate world, it was not that kind of a warm work environment. It just wasn't. People would not look at you, would not acknowledge you. And something as small as a smile and a hello to somebody, that was huge for me. Because we spend so much of our day here, I mean, we see more of our colleagues very often, more than we see our own families.
So we see our co-hosts quite a bit too.
And that, yes, our good co-hosts. So that was just a really important thing. And, in terms of the residents, that's just been incredible. I mean, the relationships I feel that I've had, I never would have had anywhere else.
Made stars out of our residents.
Well, they were already stars,
Yes.
but we shared their sparkle and their wonderful stories with the world, which is great.
So as we're starting to wrap up, the families, many do watch this, not only do our residents, it's on YouTube, and hope many families are watching every night. One of the things about your interview, which I thought I always talk to you about, which I think would be interesting for people that are still working, when you came to interview here, and you came multiple times, each time you came, you updated your resume to a new date and a new set of circumstances for each interview, which is quite unique. But talks about detail, and I guess what you do involves a lot of work with detail.
Yes, yeah.
But lastly, for the families that are watching, you created a webinar series. One of the great challenges here that we're all facing, and hopefully why some people are watching the show, is the connectivity is, where people are not allowed to visit, and the separation that's been caused, and questions people have about how things are going on. Talk about the webinar series that hopefully many people here are watching, that you created, why created it, and how it's doing.
Well, since it's always been this way, but certainly since the virus happened, transparency was our mantra. We just wanted to make sure that there was a steady stream of communication, that nothing was ever being held back from anyone in terms of what's happening here, what the situation is. Across the board, that was what, under your leadership, what every single person has that belief, that's the way to go.
So you created this vehicle.
So the webinar was just another idea, along with daily reporting and FaceTiming. It's just another way that we can share with our families in real time the news of the day, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and that we're in this together, that we're really a team with our families. It's not them, us. We're all in this together, and we all have the shared goal, which is the care of our residents.
And I would guess something like that will continue, because the communication strategies you've adopted have always been strong and always been valuable, but they've taken a new level now. I think the amount of back and forth is, it's going to be hard to go back away from that. I think it's positive. I think transparency, as you're talking about, but I think the connectivity, people being able to ask questions on a regular basis, I think it's going to be something that stays.
I think people appreciate it, and the fact that the families would take time out of their day every week to tune into this, to get the update, that speaks a lot about our families also, that they're very committed and very involved, and they really want to know everything that's, that's happening.
Well, Wendy, I thank you very much for switching seats today so you could be our guest and open up a little bit. For appearing today, you'll receive a pizza. So we'll enjoy that later.
Every day is pizza at the pizza day. At the
without
Euro.
Olivia, though, because she didn't want the pizza last week. So in any event, Wendy, I thank you for joining us. I thank everybody for tuning in, and I think we went a little long. But we wish you a wonderful May 26th. Enjoy your day. Get outside if you can. And tomorrow, Wendy will be on. Who's your guest tomorrow, Wendy?
TBD.
She's still searching for the right guest for tomorrow, unlike myself, who lines my guests up way in advance. But I'm not competitive. Okay, have a good day, everybody.